Hi, everyone. Welcome to Cyber Witch. Today, we are talking about death, dying, and dreaming.
Yeah.
I'm really excited. These are some of my favorite things to talk about and think about. Thank you all so much for joining us today. I know a lot of people are here. Thank you. I hope you're all doing well.
Yes. Hello, everybody. Hello. Sorry, I'm still reading comments in there. Yeah, welcome, everybody. So today's topic is death, dying, and dreaming. So if there's any questions about the topic of death, dying, and dreaming, put them in the chat. Of course, any kind of other questions. But we were kind of starting this off with sharing kind of our own experiences with death, dying, and dreaming, I believe.
Yeah, because we both have really curious experiences of our own deaths that are very unusual, and this played such a significance in not only both of our lives but also our spiritual paths and our understanding of the strangeness that is reality and how many layers there are in regards to everything that's going on.
Yeah, very much so. I guess I'll kick it off with mine. Mine was a little different because even though I was into the occult, even as a child, and had very spiritual experiences, I was never religious. I didn't really believe in God. If anything, I didn't really like God or anything like that. If somebody was going to be considered like a Satanist, I would have been that as a child for sure. But I had a very spiritual connection. I always had very mystical experiences as a child, but at my death, I had a very intense experience where I remember the physical sensation of having like a physical sensation in my foot that hurt because I was like laying in bed, and then it shot up into my heart. So it was like, bam, it hurt, and then went right up into the heart. And next thing you know, I'm standing in my living room and I'm watching like a scene of my life. Basically, me watching me and the scene outside perspective, and I'm like, can see my hands, but they're like, it's just light. And I was like, what the hell is this? And I've had like experiences and lucid experiences. This was way different than all that. I was, what is this? And I'm watching this whole thing and I'm super confused, you know what I mean? And next thing you know, I felt this being next to me, like looked like basically like a match, like a fire. Like if a person was just made out of fire and light, that's where it was. I guess somebody says we're lagging.
Yeah,
it might be.
it is. I can see that in the other computer.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. It is lagging a bit.
All right.
Well, it's just okay. Like that here sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes it's like that.
We're kind of out there.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, we're kind of in the middle of nowhere. So all right, cool. Thanks, Pie Monkey. Basically look like a person of like a fire. If you're looking in the middle of a candle or a match, that color and that kind of brightness of light was coming from this person. I kind of knew him, but I felt familiar with that energy, which was kind of weird. But they asked me, have you learned anything? And I was just really confused. And he said something, and then
How did it ask you? Could you like hear it in your mind, or did
it just sounded like it came from everywhere?
Okay.
Yeah. That's so cool. It was just like I just heard this thing, and of course probably in that state. And next thing you know, I went through this the spiraling blue tunnel where every form of things that you did either in your life or could have done in your life or would have done by like choices of people, places, things that you've experienced in life, it was all these like little bubbles of realities constantly showing you what coulda, woulda, shoulda, all based on your own experience. And it was like playing with your emotions, and it was doing all this, even though it wasn't really emotions, you weren't attached to it. It was just like, oh, like I had this like, oh yeah, oh, but there was like a deep understanding behind it. Next thing you know, I went through this golden light, and there was like a physical sensation almost going through the golden light. There's like you felt this like, oh, hit, and you just kind of
like you were going through like a membrane of light.
Yeah, and then you just kind of existed in this thing that was something, and there was others, but there's not, but there was others, but there's not, and there's this thing, but there's not, but there is this thing, but there's not. Maybe you were in communication with it somehow. It was a very confusing a placement, I guess you could say, you know, like a reality, and it was very confusing, but it wasn't in that state. It's only confusing coming back, you know. And so next thing you know, I felt this feeling of not really needing to stay. I felt this feeling of not really needing to go. That's the best I could put it. And next thing you know, I just remember like coming back through this blue tunnel. Like I remember the blue tunnel again, and then basically forming into my body. Like I could feel this like almost like a feeling of like foam, how you see foam expands. That's how it felt like coming in from the back into the body. And
Wow.
yeah, then I just remembered just that experience, and I couldn't open my eyes, and I just seen this blue tunnel still. And didn't remember who the hell I was, didn't remember none of my friends, didn't remember like nothing. But as I had a roommate, when my roommate came back, I had to like have this remembrance process. So it really shifted my life a lot. And then the dreams started with all the weird ET stuff, and I was remembering a bunch of stuff that, you know, I probably shouldn't have been remembering, and it was very, very interesting, and it basically blew me open. So it was very hard for a while, and that's why I spent, you know, 6 years after that just in meditation, just meditating and putting everything back together. So that's how it definitely changed my life for me personally. Um,
Could you feel the pain of like when you died and everything that happened to you?
I remember the pain in my foot to the heart,
Yeah.
but I don't.
And then
have-
it
that
was like you didn't feel your body anymore.
no. I was just really confused looking at the light hands, and then this thing that was next to me. Yeah, and then the experience and what he meant by like what I was trying to learn, and
Wow.
it was quite interesting. Yeah.
That sounds like it was really confusing while it was happening to you.
Yeah, because I didn't like I didn't have like really any belief of death or any kind of like programming aspect of like religion, or it wasn't, you know, my family was very kind of, I would say, like free range, you know, kind of believe what you want, do what you want. So um it
We
was
were
interesting.
talking about this yesterday, how
Mhm.
your death experience is a lot different than a lot of other people's experience of deaths. And what we're talking about too is like not a near death experience, because I've had near death experiences,
Mhm.
like
Mhm.
where I almost drowned and everything went black and I woke up at the side of a pool with lifeguards. But that's not what I'm
Mhm.
talking about. Like I'm talking about something that
Yeah.
if this were to happen to a lot of people, they would probably wind up in a mental hospital for the rest of their lives because
Oh,
of how weird it
yeah, I
was.
almost put myself in one. Yeah, it
Yeah,
got
like
really weird.
like
Yeah.
absolutely.
It got
And
really weird.
um because yeah, like I think it's important to give this a little more time to talk about before we
Mhm.
get into mine for a second, because I just think that yours has a lot of things that you've taken into your spiritual practice of what
Yeah.
you've learned. So like
Yeah.
what could you tell people that you learned and applied from this experience into your spiritual practice and your understanding of death and the other levels of consciousness and reality?
Yeah, it's just the non-physical aspect. Like it was really the non-physical aspect. There was this like kind of astral aspect, like kind of ghosty, you know what I mean? Like seeing this thing that was, you know, a thing of fire. So it had like some kind of form to it at first, but the actual experience of getting to what I guess I would consider that God or whatever it is, what it is or what it's not. I don't know what the hell it is, but it's definitely creating things, and there's things connected to it, and there's a lot of things connected to it. But you get that very big experience. And it was just very non-physical. Like I don't remember anything about physical reality while it was there. So there's no deviation, almost like you don't even know it exists. You're just in this thing. So there's a big non-physical aspect of it, and really, I think the lessons that came was really after the experience, because I didn't know what happened at first, you know. So it was the dreams that started with a lot of like weird alien experiences, like abduction experiences at night, and I had those as a child, a couple of them. But they were like getting nightly, every night, every night, every night, every night. So it added even more confusion to the mix. You know what I mean?
Okay.
But it was really when I met my first mentor that started teaching me certain techniques that, you know, he knew was hyperspace because he worked with other people in the past that worked with these certain techniques, and that got me to a level of dreaming that got me actually connected with different entities or aliens that came out of it, and it brought me close to my contacts and my energies, and it was fantastic. And they just basically talked about a lot about the energetic bodies. So that's why my research and meditation practice really is based on the energetic bodies and how to just get into very deep states of meditation so you can get out of body realistically. And one of the biggest lessons I learned is anybody that's ever actually been out of body, there is no more like fear of death or anything like that. So it's you can reach those states in very deep theta states of meditation, if not lower. So
Yeah, I definitely can resonate with what you're talking about in how the experience that I went through from my own death made me no longer question how there's multiple levels of reality and we're coexisting in like all these infinite dimensions, and it's very strange. Should I tell people
Please
about
do.
my death experience? So, okay, I would call my initiation into the death current like a freak, it was like a freak accident, but not an accident. It was a person was attacking me and trying to unalive me. And I also like, please don't be like, oh, I'm sorry this like happened to you. I made choices in my life that put myself in situations where I was like, and I'm in like a place spiritually where I take accountability for these things. So like, please, like, I'm not like saying this for people to be like, oh, I'm sorry this happened. Like don't worry about it. I'm fine.
Right.
This ultimately, this was something that karmically I had to go through. So anyway, I was with a person that was heavily possessed by spirits, and we had been doing all these kind of crazy rituals with aliens. And what's interesting about my death experience and your death experience, was it 2011 that happened to you?
Oh, I don't remember the exact, like I want to say it was like 2009.
Okay.
2000.
So 2011 is when it happened to me. And it was right at the time when I was getting all that contact from the tall grays, and they really started flowing into my life before my death experience. So it happened before, but that carrying through the entire experience, because the possessions, a lot of it was different walk-ins that were coming in to the person. And it was very strange. So that there was this whole like aliens and spirits and technology. We were shifting into realities, and the person was trying to shift his assemblage point to go into a different reality. This was also the same time where, remember that thing I was talking to you about, like the different possibilities for the future of Earth, and there was this contract that these different alien entities had put together. And at the time, me and this person, we were actually like, he had made this like really beautiful artwork of it, and we would go and like on the subway and like give people like our like art of it, so they would learn about the aliens, like we were like some sort of like alien evangelists or something. It was really like a wild time. And they're coming. Yeah, we're like, please, like, don't become a victim of the thought virus and like all this stuff. And so so that was what was going on beforehand, and it eventually got really bad, and that person became super possessed and tried to unalive me, and I had the full memory of being attacked and all these terrible things happening to my physical body that were super painful. Like I was going through this whole thing, and then I eventually black out on the ground, and I have this whole experience where I'm in this place that's not like a world. It's not like the Earth. It was all like shifting in darkened mists and like twisting things everywhere. I did a lot of artwork and paintings to depict it that that's in my art book that people can check out. But I try to hold on to those memories as much as possible, what it looked like. And it was just really weird, like shifting, all this weird shifting stuff. And I'm like in this place, lost and alone. There's like nothing there at all. It's just sort of like this void that has some kind of landscapes. And then there's like weird creatures that kind of are like shadows / almost like some Hieronymus Bosch shit. But like that's the kind of stuff that I like. So it's understandable that I would have this kind of like experience, right? And so eventually I find the goddess Mott, and she's standing before me. And before I died, I had been doing all this devotion to Mott where I was burning incense to her like constantly every time I wanted protection. Yeah. And she's the Egyptian goddess of death. And so, yeah, she was there and she told me I wasn't supposed to die. And then I woke up back in my body and the injuries I had sustained were gone. I had a whole bunch of scratches all over my body and I was like bleeding in some places, like on my mouth and like on my arms and stuff. But like all the horrible injuries that happened to me were just completely gone. And I was really fucking confused. Yeah. And then luckily that person didn't know I had woken up. So I was able to like grab my phone and my shoes and like run down all the 6 floors of the apartment building and like called my friend who like at the time was the OTO lodge master and like told him what happened. And he was like, well, you gotta like get help, like from like they call like the ambulance or something. And so like so like I call and I'm like, yeah, it's like The Exorcist, but real. It's like The Exorcist, but real. Okay. And like in my apartment right now, because the things that was happening to that person were like absolutely strange, like moving in ways that people can't physically move. Like it was really wild. And there just lots of details to that are not.
You ever seen the movie Fourth Kind?
Yeah.
Have like the.
Oh no, I know that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna.
Okay, we're gonna watch that. Great. And so, so the thing about this was, I'm like, whoa, like, what happened to me? Like, how am I like, okay? How am I okay? And of course, I still really cared about that person because I understood that like he was possessed, like he wasn't like choosing to do these like, things to me, right? This is different. Like, this is different. This is different. And like we were sober, like we had smoked weed, but like we were not even drinking, like we didn't even drink at all ever. And like we're super healthy. And so it was like it was crazy. Yeah. And so it had all this other weird stuff that was leading up to it that all was about shifting the assemblage point, navigating the reality systems. And I did so many pieces of video art when I was in college during that time about like navigating to different realities. And so that really, really inspired that, because that was even before this whole like death experience that I had. And so anyway, we're at the hospital and they put him in the mental ward of the hospital. And I was like, okay, they're going to just like say like something that makes sense about like why this all happened. And they were like, they took me into a room with a bunch of doctors and then we're like, yeah, like he was like channeling spirits and we know. And I'm like, no, like in my head, I'm like, no, like this is not what I thought was going to happen next. Like I was like, and then, yeah, it was a really weird experience. And so
we're the feds.
And so like, they were like, yeah, like, and they asked me questions about it. It was really wild because that was not what I thought was going to happen. And they kept him for like the legal amount of time and then he got released. But during that time, I went to go stay at my friend's house and her girlfriend was away. So she was also like needing a friend to hang out with. And I'm just like, oh my God, like all this stuff happened. I need you to help me like take apart like the magnetized pieces of metals that are inside the human bones. And like, we need to go to my apartment like, and undo all this. So we like, bless her, like she went with me and we did that. And we like took all those magnets and like buried it in the ground to like demagnetize it because it was like, it was crazy in my apartment because this had been going on for months and months, like at least 4 or 5 months of it just like constantly getting weirder. Like every time I would like come home from school or work and it would be like, what am I stepping into? Who is here today? And like, so that led up to that experience. And what's really cool about it is it feels like my assemblage point shifted through that. And like a whole part, like right before that traumatic event, it was constantly like we would have to wake up, we have to go to sleep like at certain times to try to like shift into different realities.
Yeah.
And then it's like this horrible thing happens where I die. And that was like the bigger shift, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
Dual hand path, thanks so much for your super chat. We really appreciate it. Oh, Dual hand path says my copy of Asaya Alexa is coming Monday. Thank you both so much.
Yay. Awesome. Yes, thank you.
Thanks for getting Jon's book.
Yeah. Yeah, the death is it's we all kind of create our own experiences at death, from my understanding and awareness of it. And what that means is, we're constantly creating our own reality with our thoughts and our emotions and our feelings. So like at death, like we're going to create something in general at death. And I've been around a lot of people that have, passed on, and I've had very unique and intense experiences as a child with family members dying. And they always ended up seeing things or other people, or trying to grab for people, or talking about people that have died a long time ago, and they start seeing beyond this veil. But those kind of people that I knew in the family were pretty religious, indoctrinated, and stuff like that. So I feel like when they say you're gonna meet your family at death and be taken to heaven and all this kind of stuff, I feel they kind of create this experience. And I know after my experience, I was like, I gotta find somebody that might have something similar, so I started talking, back in the MySpace days and the forum days, to people that might have had these experiences. And I've got to talk to some really amazing people, to share their experiences and make me not feel so absolutely crazy, and there's other people that have had very, very similar experiences. And there's also people that have had those types of experiences, you know what I mean? And they're all so different. And I think that death itself is so foreign to everybody, because one, they don't feel they've ever done it before, and I think anybody that's believes in reincarnation on any kind of level should know that death is not a thing. But everybody pretty much, like, if soul has done it many, many times, and there's so many physical people that have done it throughout the years and throughout the the time of being here. So it's definitely never anything to be afraid of. But the experience itself and how to navigate it, is something that we kind of wanted to touch on. And we're all probably gonna die someday, like that's the hard reality of it, whether you die of old age or you die of some reason, you're all gonna have that, and one of the main things that I've always actually said after the experience, and what I've learned, is you do see light. There's some form of light or some form of absence of light. So there's always some form of light or absence of light, and neither are better than the other. You know what I'm saying? So like the only color that I know is bad if you see it at death is white. I was always told by my mentor that white was a loop. So if you went too white light, it would just loop somebody back into an incarnation.
Can you explain that more, like what you mean by that to people? Because I don't think a lot of people understand what reincarnation is like, in that sense, where when you die, you can have different things happen to you.
Yes.
So it's interesting because what you hear is always, people are like, go into the white light.
Yeah, don't.
That's what people always say. That's what people always say.
Yeah. Yeah. And there is light, and sometimes there's absence of light. And if there's absence of light, I know that is just the same thing, basically. I mean, you could exist in that absence of light, but you can create the moment that you end up in that kind of space, because there's always this, there's just some form of out of body type feeling, but it's so removed. So it's like, at that point you can create really the experience, and your beliefs are going to play a big part of it. If you're had followed, let's say, Christianity your whole life, and that's your main philosophy, even though you might dabble, you're going to have that kind of experience made, You know, if you're working with a certain deity or god, you know, from a polytheistic viewpoint, you're probably going to have an experience with that deity and god, and it does not invalidate the deity or god. It does exist, but there's always more experience to death, I feel, and it's really our playground at that point. You know what I'm saying? Like we were out of body. There's everything possible, but when it comes to the light, you know, the white light is actually technology. It's a, you know, it's not technology like we think, like a phone or a microphone or anything like that, or a light bulb. It's very, very advanced technology that, you know, we can barely wrap our heads around, but it is utilized to simulate a death and recycle the soul back into existence. And people fall for it all the time. You know, we have a soul factory here, just incarnation, incarnation, incarnation. It keeps the machine alive, realistically. And when we realize that, we can get away from it. Like I didn't see any white light during my experience. And
I didn't either.
Yeah. And it was blues, heavy blues. I remember the blinding, like royal blinding blue light. It was wild. And it was like just blinding, even though you didn't feel blinded, you know, and it was just, I just remember it being so bright and gold. And then this like, I don't even, pastel-y black. I don't even know how to explain the other side. I can't conceptualize it. Like my brain can't conceptualize it. You know, I can conceptualize like my abduction and ET experience is quite
like,
fine. So that's like, whoa,
I'm gonna go there. I'm gonna say that I feel like part of it reminded me of, did you ever see Stranger Things?
Yeah.
When they first go into the upside down and it's like that black, like puddly plate, like that. Yeah. Like that's what it, like that's like pretty close to something.
It's just, I don't even know how to, I know it as like void. Like that's what I would call it, but it kind of had a color. It didn't kind of have a color. It was very warm. It was, there's something, nothing, something, not. It was just very weird. Wow. You know, it was just, I can't explain it or conceptualize it in art language, you know.
That's amazing. Oh, thanks so much to everyone who's here and joining us today. Also, we're talking about our deaths. In case you just joined the chat today, welcome.
Oh, I guess I'll get on that point that I was trying to make before I went off of the colors.
That's cool.
So let's talk, like, someday you're gonna die. If you want to try, try something, you know. If you want to get back home, what I've kind of remember, I guess, and have even been told and confirmed even by like my mentor, which that's a total different story on its own, is that you go towards the violet light, which is why I use violet a lot. Gold or silver. And gold I typically don't say to do, because gold often looks like yellow, and then you'll go to yellow and it's just different. It's vibrational. You know, we're talking, we want to get out of physical reality, even the astral plane, like even the astral all the way out. Like, why not, you know, go to that complete non-physical where there is just nothing. That's really where I feel we should go, past all that. So how you get there realistically is violet, gold, or silver, but gold and silver is, it's hard to see them colors. You have to like internally conceptualize them, you know. It's not like gold like a, or silver like a ring, you know what I mean? It has a different color to it. Yeah.
So I feel like a lot of these layers are even based on colors.
We can look at them as like vibrationally like colors. I mean, we can look at everything as light. You know, everything here is just condensed light to a vibrational matter. And then we have the non-physical side of light. We have to have a non-physical side of light that would just make sense in quantum physics, and all these different types of physics are saying, hey, you know, their molecules are just blinking in and out, in and out, in and out, in and out. They're like, they're physical, and they're not. They're physical, they're not. This is our reality. We're bleeping in and out of reality. You know, at such a rapid rate. We're not conscious of it. Our subconscious and our superconscious probably would be, you know, much more aware of that state. So it's It's almost like spirit. It's almost like physical reality is a spiritual fact. And even at death, there might be some kind of form of physical thing that happens. But there is a non-physical aspect to it, you know, based on my experience and your experience of having that nothingness of just stuff and then starting to form,
Yeah.
you know, and then it was just this thing came out and it was just like, we have a non-physical side to the experience, no matter what. And it goes beyond the astral. So I look at the astral as physical. I mean, your astral project or have dreams, they're all taking place on the astral. There's still some physicality to it. If you see an emanation of a spirit, there's still some kind of tangible physicality to the way we're perceiving it. So it's astral and non-physical, not as non-physical, even though they may be coming from non-physical. Because we're here, we're still going to have that astral, non-physical makeup to it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Do we have any questions in the chat?
I don't think so. People are discussing things. Peter asks, do you believe in God?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't have a name for it. I believe there's something.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Based on my experience.
I definitely believe that a lot of the gods are aliens in other dimensions. Mm-hmm. And I believe that there is forces that created us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You know, yeah. And I believe all the gods are like emanations or aspects of whatever that thing is. Mainly because I've seen it, you know, through tons of meditations and connecting to the various, you know, frequencies in my work. I've been able to see a lot of things that I might not always be able to put into words or even conceptualize how to put into words, but I can see it in my head and they come out in graphs, you know, and that's why you see me out with all the graphs.
I'm a Gnostic.
Yeah.
Moontown, thank you so much for your super chat.
Oh, thank you.
Chat. She says, great conversation. Thank you.
So, and it's, you know, it's one of those things like we're all going to be there someday, you know, and it's how do we navigate it, you know, and if you're having a physical experience and you're like, have a guide, that's great. You know, I kind of look at that flame being as like a guide, you know, you were working with Matt, right? So it's like, that was your guide, your protective guide. So it makes sense that you would have this type of experience,
an entity that can transcend into the dimension of the underworld, as it were,
bring back sense. You know, so it's, you know, then my experiences later with various, you know, ETs or, you know, aliens, but I call them ETs because they're like, to me, they're really non-physical. But even though they make a physical appearance, I can't explain even the experience that I've had with them as physical because it's so like, how did that happen? But there's just no, like, how did it just do that? You know what I mean? Yeah.
Wisdom Applied is asking, what if evil is trying to get rid of all the advanced souls?
Well, I mean, there's always that war, you know, like there's always those positive, negative polarities going to war with itself, basically.
Yeah, people are asking questions about spell work. Definitely check out the videos on my channel. I go into that, and what you're writing about is not necessary at all, and just sounds like it would attract a lot of energies around you that would feed off of that kind of unhealthy energy.
I like this is Britain's comment here about we're evolved into physical reality. This reality is not real. It's not. I would agree that, I mean, this reality is not, it's not real. Especially from everything that I've, you know, been through. I would definitely say this is a very programmed reality from a very high standpoint. You know, I'm not saying like we're in a simulation like computer thing, but it definitely works like that.
Yeah, because time isn't linear, so things are already going and unfolding in multiple ways while time caves in on itself as well.
And your external reality is based on your internal reality, and then you realize that your external reality is based on your internal reality. It's like not even real, and then you go into your internal and meditation and start doing all the inner work, and then you realize that's not all real, and then you get to these deeper levels, and it's yeah, I agree, it's not real.
And then the other topic at hand is dreaming, and let's bridge that together with the underworld and our understanding of that based on some questions in the chat.
Yeah. I mean, to me, there's dreaming sometimes can feel like kind of out of control to a lot of people, and I think once people get control of their dreams, and and it's quite kind of easy, if you really want to put time into your dreams and at least become more aware of them so you can start controlling them and moving around in them. Keep a journal, make sure the notebook is something special, like make it a special notebook, like this is my dream journal. Even get a pen, make it like you're kind of creating a ritual items, but it's very basic of notebook and pen, and you just make sure you write down whatever you remember from the night, even if it's a feeling or like, oh, I see an orange cat who's being goofy. Okay, write it down. It could be trivial. I remember shoes. I remember pink shoes, just weird stuff. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be like I walked down the road and turned to the left. And it can get that detail. It really can get that detail because your memory of it starts to be awoken internally of that subconscious level of the dreams. So just doing that alone, and at night when you're going to sleep, basically meditate yourself into sleep. And try to be as conscious of the process of you falling asleep as you can. So it's like, you can hold something in your hand, and if it drops out, wake up and grab it again, and try to remain conscious during your falling asleep period. Doing this creates this separation between your body and your energetic body. So you're like drifting into that non-awareness and then coming back to, and then drifting, and it's creating this static, if you will, between the two. And it's really easy to go into a lucid state or an out-of-body state by doing this, and you start gaining more control of these dream times. And I feel that dreaming is, when you have control over your dreaming, is really when you kind of have control over death, and you also have control over the astral world. Because if you have control of your dreaming and you're doing something in your dream, you're affecting some form of assemblage upon that fabric within that creative fabric that exists. So it's very powerful to get your dreaming in tune. Whether you believe it or not, you dream. You just don't maybe remember them all the time, or maybe you're very apt on dreaming. But I don't look at dreams as dreams per se. I look at them almost like as experiences. I think I was telling you that the other day, where I was like, I don't know, I kind of don't say I have a dream, you know what I mean? Like they're not,
yeah, because
they're not dreams.
Dreaming is another part of, like, the way that I like to look at it is dreaming and being awake are all connected as part of your life, and then death is like beyond that. Because dreaming, especially like, I love the Castaneda material. He talks about like dreaming and seeing, and those are like the two hands of witchcraft and understanding our reality.
Yes.
Before we go on about dreaming, I'm reading the chat and the discourse in the chat, which is about people discussing reincarnation and it being a trap. And I have so much to say about this because I've been taking classes on traditional Hinduism, and like, okay, so reincarnation is not a trap. Reincarnation is, you have to go through things to evolve. So you're going to reincarnate for reasons. There's always reasons of why you reincarnated. But this whole idea of like leaving samsara to go to heaven, it's not like, like if you're thinking of heaven as being like with Krishna or something like that. Yes, if you think about Krishna at the point when you die, that's heaven to you. But the idea behind it is like it's not just there's like one place that's heaven and just escaping the cycle of reincarnation. It has to do with where do you want to go when you're reincarnating. Some people want to come back to do things and to help people or to learn more, or they have some kind of purpose. So it's not a trap because you are the one that's actually making that choice.
Yeah.
What say
Agreed.
you?
I mean, agreed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, that's why, you know, you look at it as different dimensional levels, you know, in like you've incarnated as other things than just human, you know, especially in my beliefs, you know, if somebody, and I'm not saying like star seed, some star seed stuff's very weird, but I mean, if you actually have memories of being some other thing, maybe a good chance, maybe you were, you know, it, to me, it's also like, you at one point had to incarnate on that dimensional plane. How do you get there if it didn't seem as like physical as this, or you know what I mean? There's some qualities behind it. Uh, so I look at, we can incarnate in different dimensional forms, you know, and the more, I think I said to you, I don't know, was it this morning or yesterday morning, that I was like, I feel that the spiritual knowledge and the spiritual work you do when you are incarnating is the thing that you take with you, so it evolves you on those other planes and dimensions.
Yeah.
You know, and so it makes quite a bit of sense to me. You know, I like Hinduism a lot, and when I came back from my death experience and then all these dreams, and when I was told in a dream by this being that I had constant interaction with, it seemed, uh, he told me, he's like, you got to start meditating again. I was like, what do you mean meditating again? Like, I never have meditated a day in my life at this point, you know? And I was like, what do you mean? And he's like, well, you of all people know more about meditation than you think. And then I had all these memories just come in, and I was like, oh, you're right. Because I remembered them from that actual death experience too, which was wild, because it's like, it was like a dual memory overlay. It was like, I was like, oh, I do. And I went into meditation and I went right back to him. And that was like my first time meditating on, you know, quote unquote, first time meditating. And it's like the spiritual knowledge is something you take with you over and over in incarnation, and all these different kind of bodies that you're incarnated in. You know, I believe certain gods or deities and spirits, and, you know, whether demonic or angelic, can also incarnate. You know, it just makes sense. If they want to, they're going to do it.
It's also it also even correlates to what This Is Burton is saying. People who want to come back are bodhisattvas, Jesus, Buddha, Muhammad, etc. We're all these,
Yes,
of course. And then if we are also looking at like just to talk again about like it being, you know, a trap or whatever for people to come back. If we're looking at it from like a tantric Vedic perspective, people are typically just going to go to the path of the moon, the path of their ancestors, where they come back through there and then are going to come back again. It's not bad. It's just how it is.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, and to me, to get out of incarnation, you just go back to God. You know, you go back to that thing. I guess I always call it that thing. Thing.
And Ava, the meme legend 129 says, I have a dream about Revelation a few months ago where my deities Thoth and Bastet came out a portal and then told me some major thing is going to happen very soon. I don't know how to understand the dream. Yeah, I definitely think that's a good dream.
That's a good dream.
Yeah, for sure. And I definitely think your dream is a prophetic dream for sure. There are definitely going to be major things happening globally very, very soon. And you're picking up on that. What you can try to do is continue your dreaming. Try to go back again. And keep yourself open to that happening. And that should help you to understand more. And you also will probably receive communications through ordinary reality, through
thoughts.
Through thoughts, like of helping you understand more about that for sure.
Yeah. If it doesn't sit right, don't go. Like, really use discernment, especially in these times too, of just kind of like feelings and thoughts that you might hear, but you'll know if it's them for sure. Like, Bastet's very powerful. I like her. I like Bastet.
Vampire Goddess is asking what type of ritual calls your power back to you?
You know, I have a meditative ritual. You know, you definitely want to set space of some sort, you know, like light a candle. And, you know, I like using black candles for this, but light a candle, sit in meditation. Just, it doesn't mean like clear your mind and all that kind of stuff. But really what you want to do is see your energetic body, and it can do anything, you know, just let it do what it wants to, and don't kind of overanalyze it. Just kind of want to start seeing your energetic body and start seeing your intuition, and allowing your inner intuition to see it. And at that point, start pulling in energetically to you, like feel it start moving closer and closer to your body. And basically keep it as close as possible as you can with that. And then put yourself in some form of protection. You know, I personally think violet's really good for protection. It works as like a transmutation, and then you put yourself in kind of like a eye drop looking thing of that. And realistically, that's probably one of the ways that I would do it. And you can take as long as you want to, but yes, it's visualization. But what we're doing in ritual too is we're trying to create a mental space for us to feel something and bring something, you know. So if we're in a state of meditation and we're doing this, we're just pulling these things back to us, and using our will, yes, but through the visualization and becoming part of the experience, making it actually happen on the subtle levels. So that's personally what I would do.
Yeah, absolutely. And taking time to sit quietly and feel your energy and do things that help nurture yourself is really helpful, just in general. To answer the question in the chat, I never stopped being a Satanist. I've always been a Gnostic bishop this entire time. I've always worked with all the different kinds of spirits. I think I was part of different collectives where I was portrayed in certain ways, but I've always been like this. I haven't changed at all, but I'm definitely not part of the Satanists that want to cause harm to children or anything like that. And I'm not part of that. And I don't think that that's the real power in empowerment with the infernal spirits. And because those are really ancient deities, which of course, as I was saying earlier, I feel are different alien spirits that interact with the earth. So I hope that answers people's questions. Yeah.
I like this is Britain's desire keeps you in samsara. Escaping samsara requires lack of desire. I would say, yeah, you know, we're really, incarnation is, yeah, I mean, if you want to keep having experiences and, you know, coming back for whatever reason, even in that like life review or that reality review that I kind of went through, I could see how you become like, oh, I want to go write that, or I want to go do that better, or I want to go experience this other thing. And we desire to do that. And I think as souls that were, you know, are created equally one way or the other, we're given that free will to do so, you know. So it's really us that keeps us here, to me, based on desire, you know. Especially when I heard from, you know, that's whatever you want to call that spirit or whatever that thing was next to me, the flame person. You know, the reason why I incarnated made sense. It's like desire and wanting to feel something. So, you know, yeah, I think desire definitely keeps you in a cycle for sure.
And do you also think that practicing dreaming and exploring dreaming can help you with your afterlife experiences because it's non-corporeal? I feel like that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it is. And that's why I said I don't really believe in like dreams. I don't really believe in dreams.
And, like,
I do. I mean, there's dreams, but
not that like he doesn't think that dreams are meaningless.
No,
but that they're not just like, oh, it's but a dream. He means that he does think that it's so meaningful that he doesn't consider it to be a dream. Yeah, but like we're going into another dimension.
And what we remember of it is very minuscule most of the times. You know what I mean? Like even the details, we might have a whole page, but is that what happened? You know, and I've gone back into like dream journals and go reread the experiences and remember like, wow, this dream was 2 pages long. And it almost takes you back to that location. And it's really cool how it works. But at that same time, you're like, was this is this a mask of what really happened? Is this the memory mask? Like, what is really going on here? Because it's very interesting how it works. So dreams, I think, is the highest form of magic, or whatever you would want to call it, to be honest with you.
Wow.
Mhm.
That's a good quote.
Mhm. And I forget where I heard it. It's not from me,
Okay.
realistically, but I think Alice Bailey even said that once. So, but I do believe that for sure.
That's neat.
Mhm. I'm like, oh, that's not me. I think that's actually Alice Bailey, but I do believe it for sure. Yeah, Alice Bailey is she was onto something, whether people agree with some of her work or not. She was quite knowledgeable. Those, Joel Cool.
Yeah, I really like how you've taken the concepts from her work with the levels of realities and mapped it out further.
Yeah, and it was when I started finding her work that started putting a lot of graphs that I was doing in perspective. I was like, oh, she was trying to explain the same damn thing, but she's using different words. That's fine. But I can see with the bubbles and the lines. I could see where she was going. And I was like, oh, her bubbles kind of match my bubbles and lines. It was nice,
Oh, there's a good question in the chat. Have you had experiences of external energies trying to manipulate your dreams?
Mhm.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And the more you develop your spiritual senses, you'll be able to identify what's going on in your dreams. Like, is this something that is a cycle that's part of my subconscious that I keep going through because it's either energy stuck in me and I need to work through that, or it's something that I need to think more about for some reason, or it's something that I need to remember because it's going to help me now. But then there's all this other flow of other entities and other worlds that we cross over into in our dreams when we get into deeper states of dreaming, when our ordinary reality isn't so overbearing that it's coming into our dreams. Like, often people will have dreams about things that are related to their life in some way and can't get to a deeper state of dreaming because they have so much stuff going on that they need to deal with in life.
Yeah, it's like that first level dreaming.
Yeah, exactly. And so usually if you are able to get things in your life more relaxed, that is a really good way to start getting into deeper dreaming.
It is.
Which is not easy for most people to do in this day and age, unfortunately, but that is something that could be getting in the way of your dreaming if you are struggling with that.
Yep. Well, I like relaxation, meditation, yoga, any kind of spiritual practice, realistically, that for you is typically going to get you into those kind of states really good and quick. I also had a crazy diet that was very strict to be able to enhance dreaming, and I was quite strict with my dreaming.
What was that like? Can you tell people about it?
It was like somebody going to the gym constantly, basically. I spent most of my days in meditation or in these dream states or out of body experiences after the whole coming back from the death thing. So it just becomes regimented. I just knew I would wake up, I'd write down my dreams, I'd meditate for at least an hour and a half, 2 hours before I go out and have like some kind of light smoothie or fruit snack of some sort, of berries, or eating very light. But I was following a very regimented diet to be able to remember 6 to 8 dreams a night in very vivid detail, of writing them down for like 2 pages a dream.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
that's
and
it got
to the point where in physical reality, I was like, I don't even know what is going on anymore. Like, it created this split so heavily from physical reality to this other side. I was like, am I dreaming now? Like, are we dreaming right now? Like, it was creating this split. But it was very powerful. Lucid dreaming and gaining control of your dream is gaining control over, really realistically, the astral or even death experience, because it's very much like a dream. Like, even our memory of it, if we're trying to remember that experience, is like remembering a dream. Now, I don't have to go into a notebook to fully remember it because it was very pivotal. It's there, but it's like almost remembering a dream. Aaron, sometimes.
Aaron's asking, do demons appreciate a healthy body? It depends what kind of spirit it actually is.
Correct.
Some things
Yeah.
feed off of decay.
Yeah. And yeah, it totally depends. Yeah, on it really. If you work with some demons in Gen, I mean, they're going to tell you to live in absolute filth, and you're going to abide because they're doing the things, and it all depends on really what you work with, and it's not none of it's. I don't really look at anything that is good or bad. It's whatever somebody's choosing to work with.
But like obviously, you're gonna have an easier time at life if your body is healthy.
Correct.
That's ideal. That is ideal.
Less things are negatively attached.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Robert says, I've had dreams where I fly. I am flying like Superman and then wake up feeling like I can still do it, but reality kicks in. Has this ever happened to you guys? And what does it mean? Oh, I've had a lot of dreams where I can fly. In regards to what it means, you're accessing a place where you can fly.
Yeah. If you gain control over if you can enter a dream state or gain control over your lucid experience, like you could be at a party in your dream, but you can gain control over lucidity. I guarantee you, if you're aware enough in that lucid and you're like, okay, I'm going to fly through this rough right now, you're going to probably likely, if you're feeling yourself do it, as long as you do it, I mean, you're going to be able to fly. So it's really cool that you can access those kind of things in that time. And then it really should make you think like, okay, other beings can maybe probably do this too. Like maybe other beings from other planets and all that kind of stuff can also fly. Maybe they're bringing their astral body because I look kind of similar to this, but I'm flying around with them. And there's a lot of questions that come out of the experience, and it's quite powerful. If you've had a lot of dreams like that, you have a very easy you have an easier access actually to going back and learning how to gain control over that. So it's good that you've had those experiences.
Yeah, and the thing that really matters is did those experiences help you? What did you get out of that experience? Or is it just something that's like this is Burton was talking about, like our desires enslaving us. Right.
I mean, the desire to fly. Yeah. I've had experiences in those states where I was told to hold my energy within that loci or location, if you will. In the dream, I would hear a voice being like, don't do anything, just hold the energy, just hold. And you would go over this like feelings of whatever was coming up, and you'd have to hold this energy in the space, but you weren't even in your body. You were in a dream state. So there's times to hold it, and there's times to definitely play with it,
There's so many questions in the chat now. Let's try to see if we can answer some more. So Mercury for Metal says, speaking of dreams, I've had a dream that I saw 2 moons in the night sky. Any thoughts on that? There's going to be 2 moons.
There's going to be 2 moons.
Literally, that's real.
Yeah.
You're
hearing a lot of news about that.
Yeah. Wow, everyone is having all these prophetic dreams in the chat. Good job, everybody.
I woke up. That was the first message I had seen when I woke up this morning, was being asked about the moons. Actually, what's the second moon in the sky?
And what do you think about
Nibiru? That? My reply to it this morning was like, it's a ship. It's just a ship. So it might look like a certain way, but I assure you, it's more. I'm pretty positive it's going to be a ship that's hanging out for a little bit.
Ava the Meme Legends 129 has 2 questions, so I'm going to answer. Oh, there's another one above it from Lizzie. Okay, so Ava's question: how hard is it to summon the 72 demons of Solomon? There's a whole video course that I have that's like 8 hours long if you want to learn how to work through the whole grimoire with me on a video course. It's pre-recorded, so I break through the whole book. I apply it into contemporary magic. So we go about what you need to do, what you don't need to do, how to follow the instructions in the grimoire. And it's like an 8-hour pre-recorded video course that's on my website if you want to check that out. And then Lizzie's question is, do you have any recommendations of how to get rid of jinn or demons someone might have sent to you?
Well, I mean, if you're working with demons, it's good to do the banishing of things in general. If you're actually working with jinn, like an actual jinn. There's a lot of Quranic verses that you can use, and typically, really, any Quranic verse that's read well will disturb some kind of jinn itself. You might not know how to read Islam or Islamic, text or anything like that if they're just in Arabic. But if you also state the English meaning of it, or try to come up with some form of meaning of it, that's vibrational discharge to a jinn, because a lot of jinn are connected to that lore of
Moontan
of
says
Islam.
you need to do ruqyah.
Yeah, it's ruqyah. Yeah. There's a lot of books on it too, and but I also know doing a lot of the energetic cleansings and stuff like that. That's in Asaya Alexa. Even my next book, Esoteric Prayer. It's that all doing those things also will tend to get rid of them.
Oh no, I don't. I'm not doing music right now, but maybe we'll work on some things in the future. Oh hey, Wolf Bright. You say, it seems to me that filtering out the noise of everyday life is paramount before you can experience and engage in all things magical and mystical and have the strength and clarity to dream.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it
definitely
that's hard
helps.
to do,
It
but
definitely
it's
helps.
a noble effort to do that. Just try, go through your day and really pay attention to all the things around you, how they make you feel, how much time you're spending doing different things.
Yep.
And really try to manage that and cause change. It's work. It
is.
A big part of the work in spiritual work is changing your literal day-to-day life so you can handle it and manage that.
Yeah, it's that's why it's like a practice. There's some kind of practice to the operation of it. And plus, I don't know, Wolf Bright, you can comment in the chat here too. I'll ask you directly or anybody else. But if you've ever open-eyed meditation where you just silence, you're just in silence, and then that silence starts having a sound to it, the whole sound of silence thing.
Yeah.
And then you hear these levels of frequency or levels of, I don't know, there's these sounds, and you can pierce closer and closer and higher with these frequencies almost, and these it's a really good way to kind of engage in how much really is going on with the filtering as well. I feel there's a lot going on within just the air around us, and we're bombarded with electronics and our phones and just life experiences and the dogs barking. And
this happens every time in the last live that I did the other day. He started barking when we were talking in the chat about the frequencies, and then he started barking too. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, his bark's worse than his bite.
Yeah, Tom says the doggy is doing the work.
Yeah, he's getting it out. Yeah, he's releasing. Yeah. But yeah, there's many levels, and if you sit in silence, go to a forest somewhere and sit there for 5 hours. Go out there and just sit for 5 hours. Get a nice blanket, sit in meditation, and just breathe. Who cares? Don't even expect an experience. Just do it. Have that be the experience. Even with that, it's going to help you shift into more of a higher reality and bring it with you into dreaming, because I feel meditation is such a huge part of getting out of body consciously. And once you get out of body consciously, you're set, and that's actually the goal of my second class. We might be going over certain, meditations and certain symbols and all this kind of stuff. But the main goal at the end of it is you got to get out of body, to even fathom what would talk about in the next ones. We got to first get you out of body, so a lot of it starts being focused on that out of body type stuff. And doing so, meditation's huge. Becoming aware of your dreams is huge, and all those kind of things kind of give you control over that death experience when it happens. And it's quite powerful.
Yeah, and of course, it's the start of Babylon. I've been a devotee of the Dark Goddess really deeply since 2012, and that's also why my website is called motherofabominations.com in honor of her. Showdown says, what do you mean by out of body? Would you mind explaining that a bit more?
Out of body is like really out of body. I don't know if you've had astral projections. I mean, some people think out of body is astral projection, and rightfully so. I mean, it can definitely seem like that, but out of body is like you are not connected. Like you can come back to your body. You can walk around your body for quite some time and really hold your space within that state. And when you have full control out of that out of body state, you can actually feel yourself rip out almost, or like fall out completely out of body. Because me coming back from my death experience, I had one of my mentors actually taught me how to like, he's like, you need to learn how to like stay in body. Your problem is you got to stay in body because you keep popping out of body. And when I would be talking to somebody, I'd be talking to you like this. Next thing you know, I'd, and just come back to talking. There'd be like, it was so weird. So I had a hard time staying in body. And so I was taught how to actually stay in body, and still I would be able to get out of body. I try not to do it as much anymore, to be honest with you, because it was where I was going with it was pretty intense, and it's good to also be grounded here sometimes, but it's still part of my practice if I got to do something.
That was a good explanation.
Thanks.
Yeah. A big part of it is it's not like I think people might be getting confused because there's like astral projecting, there's astral traveling, there's meditation where you're in your mind and you're not necessarily like seeing the room around you and flying around, but you can have experiences astrally going within yourself, or even staring and disassociating.
Like just right now, kind of like popping out of your body, being able to look at it, and like gonna go visit Tibet, like that kind of out of body, I guess.
Yeah. And
or just leave body and don't come back to out of body, like
of course.
There's an old Hindu teacher I used to actually follow a long time ago, and his father, I guess his father was also a heavy practitioner, and his father, when he was dying, it was happening at their house, and his father was like, all right, everybody, saying bye to everybody like it was just normal. He's like, all right, I'm gonna go now, like legitimately. He's like, I'm gonna go now, and he went to go lay in a chair, and everybody just watched him just not come back. And they were just like, that's so wild. I remember telling the story. I was like, oh, that sounds like, that is beautiful. I was like, that's dark, but that's beautiful. He just left. He knew it was time and he left. So
that's amazing.
Continued on.
And Dun Peel 7 has been talking about how they don't have nature-y stuff around them, and of course, like everyone is in a different location, so you have to figure out some place where you're going to have that kind of experience. Maybe it's going to the cemetery, like you said. Maybe you really love nature, to get a whole bunch of plants in your house.
Bring it into you somehow. I mean, if you like to travel, take a road trip, like have that travel be your clearing of your mind and part of your intent of doing it. I've traveled to several places just to kind of sit somewhere and do nothing, to be honest with you, and travel back like hours and hours and hours away. So
I am definitely not interested in dark rainbow loving, and I know what you mean, and I'm definitely not interested in that. No, thank you. And 93. Could Lazarus Morale says, could the body be considered an open vessel whilst the soul is exploring the outer realms?
Yes, that's a great really,
question.
Really good thing to bring up, actually.
Question.
Yes, it can. It's technically, I mean, it's bad if a spirit does that. It will take over the body in a form of possession, especially if it's unwilling. If you assert your protections and make sure that you're doing it even ritualistically, like I like having things to meditate with that are very ritualistic. Like if you have a ritual rug, it doesn't mean you can't sit and meditate and use it for like protection and the symbols, and build that around you in your room while you're doing it, and when you use those kind of things, but in a state of meditation for like protection, you're also going to protect the physical body from, intrusions and stuff like that. So I still feel like all the ceremonial ritualistic aspects of things still can apply when it comes to meditation. There's no reason why I can't.
Yeah, exactly. And I
Done it my whole
also
life.
I also really love, there's been some conversation about psychedelics and spiritual experiences, and I really like the conversation now because in my past I've done psychedelics like hundreds of times, and I have no desire to do that, and I haven't for many years, because those things, they show you like, okay, there's other realities, but it's completely unnecessary.
Yes.
And it can get really dangerous. And so this is Britain is saying, I don't believe psychedelics are a portal for the truth. The truth and base reality existed before the physical existence of psychedelics. They are a false experience. That's a great comment. I agree.
Yep.
Yeah.
Agreed. Yeah. I've done psychedelics. It's actually, I have no problem with psychedelics. I think they can be utilized as a tool. I would consider them a tool or an ally, especially if you have a relationship with the plant, or
I
what I mean.
agree
Like
with
I like to kind of have some form of
Mhm.
relationship with it if I'm going to do it or have a purpose of why. I feel they can be used as tools, but they're never going to get you the truth. The truth, getting completely out of body and experiencing death, it has a better chance of getting you to the truth of things than anything else. But DMT, it's, you can release that naturally through meditation, breathing exercises. And that's why a lot of yogis and a lot of yogic breathing techniques like breath of fire and breath retentions and breath expansions and certain things that I talk about in the Psych Alexa and even esoteric prayer, those type of exercises actually help that.
Oh, thanks so much, everyone. Hi, Kathy. This has been a really great talk today.
It has. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I had a talk with somebody a long time ago, and he was so interesting, and he was like some form of engineer, and he's kind of secretive, but he wasn't, and I could tell he wasn't lying. Put it that way. I knew he was saying something, and he was telling me that they were working on a project of mixing certain breathing techniques and meditation techniques with various connection lines in the body to be able to like release DMT out of like the liver or the kidneys, or to release that natural dimethyltryptamine within the body out of various organs. And they're all connected to the endocrine system. So they're all connected to the central nervous system and endocrine system. So we have dimethyltryptamine in our body. It's natural. It's in the pineal gland. It's very natural. Now, if we take it externally, internally, we're going to have this blow up moment. That's still not going to lead you to the truth, because we can sit in meditation and learn the techniques that many people a long time ago without having to ingest anything that's natural.
Yeah, the fact of the matter is most people that are doing those kind of powerful psychedelics are really just lying to themselves and everyone else. You're just doing drugs. Like you're not like you're not doing actual spiritual work. You're just trying to justify that having a powerful trip, and it's not putting the work in. And when the thing is, like, nothing good is easy. That's just how it is. That's why it's called work.
Yeah.
That's why it's called spiritual work, because it takes work.
Yeah. And I've done rituals in the past where it was like 3 months long, where I'd just be, having to incorporate microdosing, because the spirit actually, I actually benefited from microdosing for it, because it was a lot easier to connect to the spirit and what they were trying to say, because it was highly adjacent from. A lot of it was hard to understand sometimes, and when in that state, it was much easier to understand.
Oh, thanks. I'm glad that you enjoy our experiences.
Thank you.
Yeah. It's been a good discussion.
I think that's, I think the ketamine therapy stuff that they're bringing up is something that they still need to do some more research in. It's so dependent on the person, and because it has that kind of tranking effect to it, it's gonna.
I don't want to get demonetized by just talking about substances for the next 20 minutes, because that's what people in the chat seem to care about more than anything else. But so Jesse says, have you ever experienced singing women coming out of your Lilith seal or your Asmodeus seal, both of those seals recently? had the sound of singing women vibrating out of them. That's really interesting. That's cool.
Yeah.
I've never experienced something like that, but that's the way the spirits are uniquely communicating to you.
Yeah. That sounds beautiful.
Yeah, it does sound really beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fantastic. But yeah, I mean, back to the death topic and the, what to do. Utilizing all that, like dreaming, meditation. It doesn't even have to be ritual. I mean, we don't have to do that to even help dreaming. Dreaming's so personal to everyone, like everyone. They're so archetypal. The meaning of it to you is so different. So dreaming is so unique to every single person, and that's what makes it even more powerful, because it's almost like everybody has their consensus landscapes, if you will, but they're all so individualized. So
yeah,
it has definitely a big play into the individual experience of death as well, I feel.
Wow, Vampire Goddess, you had a sleep paralysis dream last night with a being that claimed to be an alien. Can you tell us more?
Yeah, please.
I'm really curious.
What it look like?
Lazarus is asking, I, for lack of a better term, put what I assume now were demons in various states of disrepair while in my dream state. Could this make them target me more? If so, how do I avoid this? Well, okay, yeah. You are the one doing this, so you are in control. So you have to either figure out a way to put these things that are in your subconscious to peace, or find a way to be strong and not be afraid of the things that you've done.
Yeah. And remember, you have in those states and all that, you gotta realize you do have all the power in those states for sure. I'm really curious on the alien things. It happens a lot in paralysis. It really does. Paralysis is like a big step to those experiences.
Tall and yellow like skin, and it is said it can control minds. I kept running away from it, and it was in love.
Very interesting.
I think it also might even be related to other spiritual work that you're doing.
Very much could be. If you got a negative feeling from it, you're running away from it, like check your protections and,
yeah, if it's not helping
your cleansing and your clearings and stuff like that. Even clear your bed and cleanse your bed of stuff, like get new sheets, get a new bed. Where we're having like any kind of experiences is good to clean it out. I don't mean sage. Like, I don't say, well, get some sage. No, get some like crazy expensive incenses and incense blends. Like you're doing it as a spiritual favor for your own spirit and your other spirits that are connected to you and your allies, to get rid of the gunk, if you will.
Yeah, Saccharina, I've had beings try to attack me in dreams, and very often when that happens to me, that initiates my state of lucid dreaming, where I'll immediately be able to do something to defend myself or cause myself to wake up out of the dream. Have you ever had beings try to attack you in dreams? And what did you do?
A couple times I fought back. A couple times I've definitely woken up with cuts and scrapes on my body that there's no explanation for, even brought it back with me. And yeah, it's especially during the abduction experiences and the my labs and all that kind of stuff was quite a bit.
Yeah, if you're going through disturbing fights when you're dreaming, there's a lot of things to think about. Like, is this something that's related to your life in some way, like your waking life, that you need to process more and release the negativity out of your body from? If it's from past experiences or something that you were maybe even around, or if you're observing a lot of things that have violence in it in your life, even in the media or in games that you're playing and things like that, and that's going into your mind. So think about, like, where could this be coming from as well? And then if it's a spiritual thing, then you definitely want to be doing things to increase your protections and increase your overall spiritual hygiene. by trying to work on your own energy body and make yourself have stronger energy so things can't feed off of you and make you afraid. The main thing is to not be afraid, because these things want us to be afraid and they feed off of that.
And the image and visual that's going to happen in that state is going to be based on that fear too. So it's going to help create something in that experience that's going to fuel it. Very much so. Good answer.
Some of my abduction experiences are I'm in some kind of place and in a medical bed, and they're doing little tests on me, and they have a clipboard and they're like looking at my body. And then I have the experience of falling very quickly and abrasively back into my body in my bed.
I've had things like that, and then I consider them sometimes negative. I don't know. Sometimes I thought of them were negative, and sometimes they weren't.
It's neutral for me.
Yeah, they became neutral, and then I had other ones that were much different, where I was like talking to them once I got to like realize what was going on. I guess you could say, like really coming to or being awoke, like waking up in that reality as well.
Yeah, or sometimes I'm in school, like a lecture hall.
Yep, that's a big part of it. I had ones that I was on a ship, being, that one that opened the door and I was all confused. It came out of nowhere. I was like in this room that was kind of metallic, and it was, I came to in the room, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, it's like the wall opened up. There's like no door there. I don't remember seeing a door in the experience. It was just opened up, and there was a person there, and this is what I consider like a my lab, like a military abduction, because the person looked very military-like, and he was like, "All right, let's go." And I was like, "Who are you?" Blah, blah, freaking out. And they're like, he even said my name, and he goes, "Do we have to do this every time?" And it was just so wild, because I was just like, "Oh yeah." And then I just remembered, it was like, "Oh, okay, whatever," and started going to the thing. But the ship, whatever that is, it was absolutely beautiful, because like it's like a living, like there was plants on it, there was like trees and like real waterfalls and like kind of stores, but they weren't stores. They were like, it was just really very vast. It was like almost like you're in a very large city, but in something, and it was definitely ET and alien. There's a lot of different beings there and all that, and I was just walking with this military man, I guess you could say.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to also respond to Lazarus' comments, yes, obviously, like, you can't hide from the violence of the world, but you can choose what you are choosing to do in your time when you have time to yourself. So you can do what you can to try to bring yourself more peace. And if you are exposed to that, then understand that like it will affect your dreaming, and that's not something that's like something from beyond, but it's the literal forces of this world that are very sick and fighting. So absolutely.
Vampire Goddess there says, I've been she said she gave up on witchcraft and spirit practice, now returns back to the law of attraction and light for work spiritually. That's great, but understanding that's still the basis of witchcraft and spiritual practices. It's a science, and how we're using it. I mean, if you're into witchcraft, it calls all this mischief and do this like black magic and do things maybe negatively. That's your choice, and sometimes it can have a negative effect on somebody's life and a recoil effect, and sometimes it can't. It all depends on the operator and the person operating the system that they're working with, and so it in the end, it's all to me, it's all kind of law of attraction, but that's good. I mean, keep using it. It works really well, as long as you can follow it right.
Yeah. Esther keeps asking about how is it possible that you would wake up with bruises and are wounded, because things can happen to you in other dimensions while you're sleeping.
Yeah,
and affect your body.
Yeah, and because it's affecting the astral and the etheric body, the etheric body is connected to the physical body very, very closely. It's like a double. So anything that actually affects the etheric body from the astral body will more than likely show up on the physical body rather quickly.
Yeah, Vampire Goddess, definitely forces like Lucifer are back incarnating on the world, just like all these other energies, because the world is going through a great awakening of spirituality. In order to help us to advance to a new age, in human evolution, and it's not an easy thing. So that's why a lot of us have incarnated at this time to go through these hard times. And we can't, like what we were just talking about, and we have to help raise it up, just like we were talking about, like you can't avoid or hide from the violence in the world, but what you can do is just keep going, and then things can get changed over time. That's the INRI, right? Through fire, nature is reborn.
I'm reading that one about past life regression, where you were in a bioluminescent forest similar to Pandora. No, I wouldn't say a regression. I had an experience that had a very weirdly lit up forest that had like these circles on the ground, and I was being guided by kind of a person, I guess, but they didn't look human. They looked human, but you could tell in her eyes that they weren't. They just looked different. And it was on the like circles in this forest that had all this like glowing stuff around it, and on these circles we'd be beamed up into these like ships and stuff from these circles on the ground. And the rest of that experience is kind of lost in the mind, but it was definitely interesting.
Yeah, exactly, Nikki. People are awakening. Absolutely.
Yeah. In my mind, we're a little behind. We're a little bit behind on schedule for a few things, but luckily it's happening, and it's gonna eventually be a point where people will have no choice to. So it'll be ripped away, and that's when things might get a little dicey, maybe. But people are awakening, and it's beautiful to see. Especially people that have more questions about the nature of reality and how they can have their own experience with like non-physical and raise themselves up and become more spiritual. It's really actually nice to see.
And I think that's a really beautiful point to leave today's chat on. And if you would like direct help or to check out the different classes that Vermilion and I have, Vermilion also has books on his website. And if you would like help from me or to check out my classes, or if you want a reading from me, all of our stuff is linked in the description of this video. Once again, as I've been mentioning, please be careful of fake social media accounts that use my photos. If you would like to work with me, please only use my website. And I love all of you so much. Please hit subscribe if you're new. Please hit like on this video to help the algorithm. Shodan, thank you so much for your super chat. I really appreciate that. So sweet. Thank you. And thank all of you so much for hanging out today. Thank you so much to all of my channel members and my patrons. I hope you all have a great rest of the day, and we'll see you next time. Bye.